I was lucky enough to be flown out to Stockholm by EA and the Gamechanger program in order to capture some new footage of Chapter 5, The Pacific. A lot of pressure has been placed on Chapter 5, The Pacific, and whilst I do enjoy a fair bit of content in the current game, this update is much needed. Moving forward, a well-known theatre of war with iconic battles, new factions, epic weapons and vehicles we haven't seen before, The Pacific is attempting to revitalise the game. On first impressions, The Pacific looks to be fantastic. The trailer was superb, the reception from the community was a 10 out of 10, and today I'm going to be showing you footage that I captured at an event that I was lucky enough to get invited to by EA. I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on the content I got to play with a focus on Iwo Jima, a new map that will certainly impress a lot of players and fans of the franchise. Iwo Jima was a map featured in Battlefield 1942 and placed the US Marine Corps against the Imperial Japanese Navy during the Battle of Iwo Jima. The beach invasion fantasy has been something many World War II first-person shooter fans have wanted DICE to tackle for ages, however getting the balance right between an Omaha Beach-style slaughter and engaging gameplay is obviously a difficult task. With Iwo Jima you do have beach landings, but at the same time they aren't ridiculously grindy. Sure, if you park your Higgins boat on the beach and open it up into oncoming fire, you'll have a bad time. But that isn't your only option, and after speaking to a DICE developer, I know for a fact that they've made it easier for the attackers in the first sector to avoid that annoying stalemate that you often get in the first stage of breakthrough. This will then change throughout the map, with an attacking or defending side getting slightly more advantages with the way the map is set out, which is really good fun because it feels as if the battle is naturally moving backwards and forwards. Even if your team isn't that great, it gives you more of a chance to impact what is happening on the battlefield and less of that boring stalemate gameplay that we've seen in previous games. Saying that, during the playtest, there were a few times where the attackers did struggle a little bit to get up the beach, and this was purely down to players not pushing and camping. As you know, it's a bit of a problem in video games. Some people just don't like to push and take the risk in order to get up the beach. Smoke is of course incredibly important, very strong as usual, and a good squad will have no trouble getting up the beach. I did it virtually every time I wanted to as a medic, smoked using the rifle smoke grenade and then just a normal smoke grenade, got up the beach and made my way into the enemy nest. On a map specific level, Iwo Jima is great. There are a few things that have me concerned, and some other people as well. For example, the effectiveness of a fully specialised plane versus infantry players without a whole lot of cover. However, other aspects of the map are really good fun. I'd also say as well that the Fliegerfaust is coming, and that thing will smash planes to pieces, so I feel as if it's a good balance to have effective planes and then effective anti-air. Hectic cave gameplay is another relatively unseen feature in Battlefield games, and the stuff you can see in the background now reminds me of Ghouling Peaks in Battlefield 4. Sure, it might be a bit stationary at times, with the attackers having to push through the tunnels and the defenders being able to almost cement themselves in there and prevent anyone from coming through. This can, however, be countered in a few ways, and I found it very easy to get into the tunnels, and I think the attacking team won every single time, bar one event where it was just incredibly close at the end. A good idea in this situation is to either smoke and push and just take the damage, hopefully people behind you can revive and you just fly your way through the tunnel almost in a wave of attackers. You can also go for flanks on the left hand side. There are many ways to get up on top of the caves and then back down through the other side, and plus you can take a vehicle into the tunnels, and if you're flying through there in a tank, as many people did, there is very little the defenders can do as you fly in there and just smash them all out of the way. Visibility has been an issue in Battlefield 5 for quite some time. Whether it's down to poor soldier lighting, weird camouflage, over-detailed environments or other aspects, DICE have been trying to alter things over the past few patches to make this better. Iwo Jima is a unique map with that black sands and rocky terrain, contrasting the soldier uniforms really well. Whether this stays the same with the cosmetic items people will want to apply to their soldiers, which in my opinion is just wrong. I don't think we should be having all of these weird elite classes on the Japanese versus the US style maps. Just keep it simple and almost authentic, because that's what people really want. I'm not sure, but from my experience, spotting players was really nice. You could definitely hide and avoid being seen. However, this required actual thought instead of the usual process of just going prone in any area of the map and suddenly becoming invisible. For me personally, this was a big positive. The start and end add more flavour to each game of Breakthrough. After speaking to some developers, they explained how the beginning and end of this Breakthrough mode on Iwo Jima is almost there to provide a bit more of a movie experience, whilst the middle part is where you really make the difference, and I think it worked really, really well. It's more action-packed than a Rotterdam Breakthrough game, and I feel as if they've put more effort into it in a similar way to what we saw in Battlefield 1 with Operations. Breakthrough almost feels like you're experiencing an entire Grand Operations match in one single game. On the other hand, Conquest is a bit more slow-paced and arguably a bit too large for players that prefer the constant action, those that prefer the old-school Battlefield maps where you'd have a battle on one flag and then lots of little battles on other flags. Takes a while to get between places, but can be very interesting. Obviously looks great and is really good fun. I'm thinking that's going to be more your style, playing Conquest on the newer maps. Playing Breakthrough is a bit more hectic, and I think that's just the nature of the mode. The map does provide the opportunity to flank and back cap on Conquest, but also has several interesting areas for engagement. I did notice a few players taking the jeeps to the back of the map in order to cap the cave flags, and whilst the creators at the event are usually quite objective focused, I think this will transfer when the map goes live, as it's really not that difficult to work out how to back cap on this map. Overall, I'd say that I'm incredibly happy with what I got to play. Yes, it's not a Battlefield 4 DLC with 4 maps, we only have 2 on release, but that's just the way Battlefield 5's going about things. Instead of a content drop on one day, they do split it up over the entire chapter. That's something I'm on board with, because that's the approach they're taking for Battlefield 5 and they won't change it. As long as it's done properly with good content that works on release, I'm completely fine with that. It feels like a proper World War II game for the first time as well, with iconic locations, that movie-style gameplay, although it's fun, not that attrition rubbish that many people are really wanting, and I just can't see why you want to get mown down by an MG42 all game. It's large scale, vehicles and infantry, a classic pair of maps that were both a big hit with the Japanese creators, more sandbox, and it almost feels like a complete rebrand of the game. I personally love this orange effect they've got on everything, way better than the blue, and it does feel like some life has been breathed back into Battlefield 5. Finally, I'd like to see this video out with a few quotes from other creators who joined me for this event. There were loads of us there. Of course, you've got the big hitters like Jack and Westy, and then you had a lot of other creators there as well who have great input, most of which were absolutely thrilled with what we got to play. A few did say that Breakthrough was better for them than Conquest, and some of it didn't really hit the nail on the head as they prefer a different style of gameplay. However, overall, it was the most positive I've seen the creators in a long time. Stoddy, probably the best sniper in the game, one of my favourite streamers, he said Iwo Jima is the perfect Breakthrough map, and I'd have to agree with him here, especially from his point of view. It has everything. It goes from slightly longer range sniping engagements to close quarters in the trenches. You've got very interesting layouts where you don't seem to have cover because it's quite open, but because of the undulation in the map, you're almost hidden from other areas, so you can't just camp in one area and see the entire map. It's very difficult to do that. The visibility was good, the vehicles didn't seem very overpowered at all, although they could be effective, and the new weapons were great fun. Tommy from 2 Angry Gamers said that Iwo Jima is the closest we've got to a Battlefield sandbox experience on Battlefield 5, and I'd have to agree here. The sandbox experience has been lost since Battlefield 4 in my opinion, and the DICE developers have tried to bring this back a bit with Battlefield 5. You can see that with the trailer as well. Some of these crazy moments that might not be realistic, such as the katana or the plane hitting the V1, but it's what people want. Only in Battlefield. Moments in Battlefield are just cool. Westy of course said it was great, He tends to have a very positive stance on this sort of stuff, although I would say that he does give some really good criticism and is quite eloquent in these sessions. He likes to speak and make sure his voice is heard, which is really important, I feel, because otherwise what's the point in being there? And Jack, he said it was an old school Battlefield. Iwo Jima Breakthrough tells a story and provides a great experience. There was of course another map in Pacific Storm, which I'll be covering in another video with more gameplay focused content. I don't really want to commentate over everything because you don't get the exact feeling of actually playing the game, which you'll of course be able to do soon anyway. I think that that map is a slightly different experience, and for me is better on Conquest than Breakthrough. And it reminds me of course of Parasail Storm, where it gets its name from, and then Lost Islands, which I felt it replicated a little more closely than Parasail Storm, both of which are good fun in Battlefield 4, better in Battlefield 5 in my opinion because you have less vehicle spam, so it gives a different approach with some really cool elements in there too. The teaser at the end for Wake Island, I did get to play a build of Wake Island, however I can't talk about it in any detail really. All I'll say is if you like the old Wake Island, you'll like this one. It's Wake Island, what else can I say? DICE know what they're doing with this. They've had quite a few attempts at getting it absolutely perfectly right. Not everybody's cup of tea, but it is a classic, and I think it will go down with the community really well. Let me know your opinions down in the comments. What do you think of this content? Is it what you expected? Do you think it will breathe a bit more life into Battlefield 5? And will it get you back playing? Because that's probably the most important thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.